Well, hello once again, and welcome to another edition of Pray on This. I'm your host, John Pray. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know whenever I release another video. We all knew I'd do it sooner or later. Han Dong, that embattled Liberal MP who for over a month has been one of the named recipients in Chinese Communist Party interference into Canadian elections, is once again in hot water. Global News reporter Sam Cooper, one of the reporters, along with Robert Fife and Stephen Chase of the Globe and Mail, who have been the journalists who have the sources from various government insiders leaking information about Chinese election interference, who have brought this story to our attention. Sam Cooper reported yesterday that Han Dong told the head of the Chinese consulate in Toronto that they should not release the two Michaels, Michael Spavler and Michael Korvig, who were being held by the Chinese Communist Party on trumped-up charges before the 2021 election. To do so would be seen by the Canadian public as a victory for the Conservative Party of Canada. The theory was the release of these men would be seen as a result of the tough talk by the then Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, who was putting a lot of pressure on Trudeau, and would greatly help the Conservative election fortunes. Dong, of course, denies that he said that. However, yes, he admits he spoke to the Chinese consulate and initiated the conversation. But he would never tell them to hold a Canadian citizen for political purposes and violate their human rights. Well, let's be clear. A lowly backbench MP doesn't on his own just go around and talk to foreign government officials. Let's be clear, Han Dong is not a cabinet minister. He is not a high-ranking member of the government. He is a backbench MP. It could actually be illegal for a backbench MP to talk foreign business with government business with a foreign power without permission of higher elected officials. The simple fact that Mr. Dong made the contact, did so on his own, without informing the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's office, the Foreign Affairs Minister, and he had no direction to do so, is just simply not believable. If we follow the bouncing ball of leaks, first CSIS in 2017 informing the PMO of serious Chinese Communist Party interference in our elections. Before the 2019 election, CSIS gave a briefing to high-ranking members in the Liberal PMO that Han Dong had been compromised by the Chinese Communist Party, and that he should not be allowed to be a candidate of theirs for elections. It's actually more believable that all of this was known by high leadership of the Liberal Party, despite their denials, that Dong had better inside contacts with the Chinese Communist Party than the Liberal Party did, and that if he was caught being an intermediary, that the Prime Minister's office and the party would have deniability, and he could fall on his sword, which he kind of did last night by resigning from the Liberal caucus. Not fully, though. In my opinion, he should have fully resigned his seat. I do not believe for one moment after this last revelation that Justin Trudeau, Katie Telfer, or other very high-ranked Liberals did not know about Dong, Chinese interference, and that they benefited from this relationship. On Twitter, and by some in the media, trying to defend this, both people whom I deeply respect and those I consider to be nothing more than blind faith sheep followers of their political party. Well, you're really stretching it to defend Dong and the Liberals. I truly respect Robert Benzie of the Toronto Star. However, yesterday in his statement on CTV Power Play and today on the radio program that Vashi runs on the iHeartRadio network, he's made comments along this line. How much faith can we put in CSIS? After all, they really didn't know that much about the Freedom Convoy. With all due respect, Robert, it's not CSIS's job to really watch Canadians. That's the job of the RCMP. CSIS is to look out for foreign interlopers into our business. Mr. Benzie is usually much better than this, but he does work for the Toronto Star, which is a cheerleader for the Liberal Party of Canada. As for the Twitter suggestions I've read, that slow leaks means it is misinformation, or CSIS has a disgruntled employee who's telling lies and feeding this because he wants to get back at the Liberal government, or the best one I've seen yet, Canada's media is controlled and owned by MAGA Republicans of the United States. They're all Fox News North now, and they're trying to interfere in Canada. Well, let's put away the tinfoil hats, ladies and gentlemen. First, I have traveled extensively in the United States, and when I say that the Americans do not care about Canada or our politics, I'm really not kidding. And I don't mean just the average Joe American going to work doesn't care. I'm talking about the majority of their elected officials. Hell, half of them couldn't tell you whether Canada has a prime minister or a president. Or could they tell you the difference between the two with two hands and a flashlight? My word. In 2016, a United States legislator named John Grumpart put forward a bill that Canadians be banned from driving in the United States. His reasoning? Canadians don't have superhighways, just narrow two-lane roads. When shown a picture of the 401 with verification that this is not only one of the biggest superhighways in the world, it is the highest volume superhighway in the world, and the picture you're looking at was taken in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Mr. Grumpert said the person was misinformed and that Canada has nothing like that. And as evidence, he came out and said, Canadians don't drive on the right-hand side of the road. They drive on the left, like the British. Mr. Grumpert is from Iowa. He's not from Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Alabama. He's from Iowa. It's 650 kilometers from the Canadian border. But he doesn't know a damn thing about us. The theory that the U.S. cares about us, wants to influence us, wants to decide Canadian elections, well, this theory propped up first in the Freedom Convoy, and it can be debunked very quickly. It's called the 49th parallel. It's 8,891 kilometers of undefended border. There is no way the U.S. wants to meddle in, destabilize our government, or our democracy. That's just asinine to suggest. And whoever does is an ass for suggesting it. Second, is anyone who would suggest that a major newsroom would go to print, on the radio, or TV with a story like this from an anonymous source without knowing that that source is an extremely good and reputable one, that the information is very, very credible, is just not believable. The number of lawyers and editors that went over these stories with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that they wouldn't get their asses sued off is beyond belief. It is more credible to take the work of Sam Cooper, Robert Fife, or Stephen Chase at face value than to trust Prime Minister Trudeau, any of the senior staff of the Liberal Party or the Prime Minister's office, or a Liberal MP on this. If there was no truth to these allegations, then Han Dong, Justin Trudeau, Katie Telford, several other MPs, and the Liberal Party of Canada would have Global News and the Globe and Mail in court right now suing them for libel. Since that's not even a rumor of a possibility at this moment in time, we know that there is a lot, if not total truth, in everything that's being leaked. For those who go after Pierre Poilievre for pushing for the answers and for demanding that sunlight be put on all of this, It's nothing more than political theater and cheap partisan tricks. For the love of God, think for one moment. If it is Trudeau and the Liberals who are playing games and using this as a partisan football that they're kicking around for their own reasons. If they were clean, they would gladly shed as much light as possible on this situation. It would restore their fortunes with the voters. For those who believe that Jagmeet Singh is there to fight for you and Canadians, if he truly was, he would stop trying to score points as well by wanting to have an inquiry that looks at Russian interference and Iranian interference, Indian interference, as well as the Chinese interference. Jagmeet, you may be right that those other three you mentioned poke their noses into our elections and our government's affairs. But that's not the current issue. It should be looked at separately. This is incredibly serious. How's this, Jagmeet? When CSIS, the Privy Council, and the committees that have been set up to look at election interference are naming countries other than China, I say let's go nuts, Jag. Let's have an inquiry on everything. But until they are, how about we do what football players do and keep your eye on the ball? My personal opinion is that the Communist Party of China has been at this for decades. It probably goes back as far as Mulrooney, continued through the Chrétien years, but back then it was clumsy and crude. By the time we get to Martin and Harper, they have become much better at it. But if we remember, in the first 10 to 12 years of this century, all the time we were hearing about China getting caught spying on our companies or spying on our governments in Canada and the United States. But they were constantly getting better at it. And then in 2015, the perfect conditions for the Chinese Communist Party presented themselves. A young, naive, narcissistic, power-hungry man who had the right last name and the chance to become Prime Minister of Canada. A G7 country, a member of the Five Eyes, a member of NATO, the largest trading partner with the United States of America, who, by his own admission, had a great admiration for the basic Chinese dictatorship. They played to Justin Trudeau's two great weaknesses: the godlike love and worship Justin has for his father, Pierre. Hence the donations to the University of Montreal for scholarships in that former Prime Minister's name, and to the family foundation that was nearly broke when Justin became the Prime Minister. They also played to Justin's ego, promoting his book, talking him up. That is pure oxygen to the narcissist like Trudeau. Give him power, then give him the ability to keep power at all costs, and here we are. Remember the last election? The totals between the Liberals and the Conservatives was 157 seats for the Liberals and 121 seats for the Conservatives. There are too many in this country, especially those who support the Liberal Party of Canada, who will say, well, what is 1 or 2 or even 10 or 20 seats being interfered with really mean? It's not enough to affect the election. Yet that's not true. In 2021, the Liberal Party of Canada won 37 ridings by 1,500 votes or less. They won those ridings over the Conservatives, the NDP, and the Bloc. Now bear with me. Speculate with me for a moment. What if that Chinese interference affected several ridings, not 1 or 2 or even 11? Let's say that the NDP, without interference, would have won 5 more seats. Let's say the Bloc would have won 7 more in Quebec. And let's say the Conservatives would have won 15 more across the country. That's 27 seats. Out of 338, it's not a lot. But if you take those 27 seats from the Liberals, remember that total, 157, well, if you take away 27, they're down to 130. Add 15 seats to the Conservatives' 121, and they're at 136. With the NDP now at 29 and the Bloc at 39, yes, we still may have had Prime Minister Trudeau in a coalition government with the NDP and Jagmeet Singh. But we also could have had Prime Minister O'Toole with support from the Bloc Québécois. Justin Trudeau has told anybody who will listen, and he has sold the members of his cult, because I do not believe you can support the Liberal Party of Canada anymore without being part of the cult of personality which is Justin Trudeau, on his talking points, that unless all 338 ridings are affected by election interference, then the election is valid. That simply is just not true. Interference that can change the results of 10 to 15% of our ridings can change who governs us. Justin may not be the smartest guy in the world, but he is surrounded by very smart people. Justin's power hungry, and so are they. For those who believe that this is all misinformation, smoke and mirrors, or just those nasty conservatives, and remember, those MAGA Republicans who've bought up all our media, just trying to be mean to the great Justin Trudeau, you're wrong. This is serious. We need to know just how bad this is, just how deep this goes, how have these roots intertwined into the fabric of Canada. We need to know who is implicated, no matter who they are and what party they belong to. This is Canada. It should be governed by Canadians who are chosen by Canadians, with no outside interference from anybody, friend or foe, ally or enemy. Anything less, and we're no longer a country, and none of us can call ourselves a Canadian. That, as always, is Pray on This. Once again, hit that like button and subscribe. Turn on notifications. And as I've already said earlier, this is my second video today, and I don't know if I'm going live in 20 minutes when the Ontario government drops their budget, or if I'm just going to watch it, take it all in, take some notes, write another blog, and then give you another video with my opinion on the Ontario budget. But there will be something further tonight. Tomorrow I'm out of the office all day with meetings with some prominent people. And those meetings also continue on Saturday. So I will not be seeing you all again here until Monday. So until later tonight, when I give you that video about the Ontario government, have a great day. It's still raining, but the snow's leaving. Spring might finally be here. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care.